Welcome to episode 0 and special Kickstarter pilot for The Backlog, a new web show that's going to be focusing on forgotten classic games that are still easy to come by, things that you might have missed. Our episode today is going to be Trog for the NES. Trog is an NES game released in October 1991, developed by Visual Concepts and published by Acclaim Entertainment. It's very similar in concept to Pac-Man, but features a prehistoric theme. Players take control of a dinosaur and navigate stages collecting eggs, all the while avoiding the evil cycloptic cavemen known as Trogs. Also similar to Pac-Man, Trog was originally an arcade game as well. It was developed by Bally Midway and released in 1990, featuring claymation graphics. The characters were actually clay models, which gave the game a very distinctive visual style, which unfortunately didn't make the transition to Nintendo's home console. Another unfortunate sacrifice that had to be made was while the arcade version featured 4 dinosaurs, Rex, Bloop, Spike, and Gwen, and 4-player simultaneous play, the NES version only features Bloop and Spike. Oddly enough, Gwen remains on the title screen. Back in those days, there was no internet, and I didn't know that game magazines existed yet. So whenever my parents would buy me an NES game as a surprise gift, they would always base their purchase on the box art. I was big into dinosaurs as a kid, so when they saw a Trog, they figured it would be my kind of game. And they were right. The gameplay consists of collecting all the dinosaur eggs in a level while avoiding the Trogs. They're relentless in their pursuit of you, and one whack from them and you're dinner. If that's not enough danger, there's plenty of other hazards to watch out for, like edges you can fall off of, bottomless holes, and tar pits. Luckily, the Trogs are just as susceptible to these as you are. Unlike Pac-Man, who's helpless until he eats a power pellet, Bloop and Spike are able to fight back in numerous ways. Your basic weapon is a punch, with 3 punches knocking away a Trog. There are plenty of power-ups as well, including flowers to make you run faster, hot tamales which lets you spit fireballs for a limited time, an ice cube that freezes all enemies on the stage, and the coup de grace, the pineapple, which turns you into a T-Rex and lets you jump over hazards and chow on Trog. While Trogs seem like dumb cavemen at first, they advance very quickly. Every 5 levels there's a Trog's Cave sequence, where some new method of destruction is devised. These include things like spring shoes, letting Trogs bounce around the stage, and onto you, and stone wheels that roll around the stage willy-nilly. For some reason, the T-Rex can eat the wheels. Don't ask. If you're paying attention at the beginning of each level, 1 egg will sparkle. Save that egg for last, and it opens up a warp zone, zooming you ahead 3 levels. With 50 different levels to traverse, it makes getting through the game easier, but be careful. If you die on a level, the warp will not appear. The best part of the game is the 2-player co-op. Like so many other NES games, Trog is much more fun with a second player. The eggs are divvied up into 2 colors, with each dino racing to collect theirs first. You can choose to cooperate to get further in the game, or just be jerks and punch each other. It's completely up to you. Or whoever you're playing with, I suppose. Trog is a relatively unknown NES game, which I think is a real shame. It's incredibly solid, it's got great controls, graphics, and music, and it takes the basic Pac-Man premise and makes it better, which I know is a bold statement, but that should really illustrate my point about how much fun it is. The 2-player co-op is what really brings it home. When I was a kid, my NES time was very limited because my parents were worried about its effect on my grades and everything, but Trog was one of the few games that my mom enjoyed playing. So all I would really need to do was be like, hey Mom, why don't we play Trog together? And then I could play way past my limits for the day. I was a real crafty kid, and that's a policy which I've tried to maintain today. Since it's so unknown and doesn't really get a lot of buzz on the internet, there's not a lot out there about it. On eBay it's actually still really affordable, which is actually kind of surprising considering how prices for retro games have ballooned the past few years. At the time of this filming, on eBay it goes for between $4 and $10. Just the cartridge, there were no boxed copies available. if you're looking for a really fun game to pop in your NES, something to get some two-player co-op going with a buddy, go back to a simpler time, Trog is absolutely perfect. There is no way you're going to be disappointed. Wait, stop the credits. This is episode 0. This is the special Kickstarter Pitch episode. So I wanted to go a little bit into what the show is going to be about and what the money is actually going to be used for. This is an idea for a show I've had for a while. I've really wanted to focus on old games that people have forgotten about, games that never really got the credit that they deserved, but I wanted to focus on games that are still affordable, because there's nothing worse than reading about an old game and hearing about how rad it is, and then going to eBay and finding out it's going to cost you $80 just to play it. What the money is going to be used for is equipment, basically. I filmed this episode using an emulator, which I really don't want to do, because the whole point of the show is going to be, bring back these glory days of gaming and playing these old games, and I don't feel like you can get that when you're playing on an emulator. It's just about your game, your controller, and your console. So I definitely wanted to get a capture device for that, and then a camera, because I'm filming this on a borrowed camera right now, and my wife is the tripod. So that's not as funny as it sounds. So that's really what I'm looking for. I mean, we're both adults, we both work full-time, but as you probably know, living around Boston is quite an expensive endeavor. So that's what the money's going to go for that. I set the goal low, but anything that goes over is just going to make the show better. I know this episode was a little bit rough, but it's my first time, so it's going to get better as I get better equipment and I kind of feel out what I'm doing. So thank you for watching. Any pledges would be appreciated, and I hope that I get to make this a series and that you keep watching.